You reach down to lift her off the couch on a Tuesday night, and she doesn't spring anymore. She lands with a soft, heavy drop, and her belly swings a little as she pads over to the bowl. You watch her stop halfway up the cat tree she used to clear in one jump, and when you rest your hand on her side and press, you can't find her ribs. That's the moment. That's when you know your cat is getting heavy. Look at her from above while she's standing. There should be a little tuck behind the ribs, a soft hourglass. On a lot of cats now, that tuck is gone. There's a straight line or a bulge. She's 14 pounds. She should be closer to 10. On a cat that small, 4 extra pounds is like a grown man walking around with 45 he can't put down. And the bowl by the wall is part of the story. The one you top up with just a scoop in the morning, and again at lunch, and again when she cries at you at night. It's never empty. Now here's what most people do. They walk into the store and they buy the bag that says weight management, or indoor formula, or light. They switch the dry food and they wait. This is the thing everybody half remembers being told. Buy the special kibble. It feels like doing something. Some go further and spend real money. A prescription diet bag, $40, $50, $70. Sometimes you need the vet's signature just to buy it. And a year later, the cat is the same weight or heavier, and you're standing in the same aisle. Here's what nobody tells you. Even the diet kibble is dry, packed tight with calories, and sitting in a bowl your cat grazes from 20 times a day. The recipe on the front of the bag was never really the problem. So, sit with this for a second. There's a swap that costs about the price of a fancy coffee. Cats tend to go after it like it's a treat, and it works not because of some magic ingredient, but because of one thing almost nobody thinks about. It's not what's in the food, it's what's missing from it. I've spent decades as a companion animal vet, and I've watched good owners follow every word on that bag and still carry in a heavier cat the next year. The thing that finally turned it around for me didn't come from a label. It came from an old professor of mine in school. She used to say we kept fixing the recipe and ignoring the water. So here's what I'm going to give you. 1 simple food swap, 3 rules for how to portion it, and 2 things you check on your cat's own body so you know it's working. You can learn all of it in the next few minutes and start this week. And by the end, you'll see why the most scientific-looking bag on that shelf is often the very thing keeping your cat fat. Before I hand you the swap, you need to understand what your cat actually is. She's a hunter, down to the bone. She's built to eat like one. In the wild, her whole diet is the mouse she catches, and a mouse is mostly water, around 3/4 of it. High in protein, almost no starch at all. That's the food her body was designed around over thousands of years. Now look at kibble. It's the opposite of a mouse. It's dry, maybe a tenth water. It's packed tight with calories in every little piece. And it sits in a bowl that's always full. So she wanders over and grazes 15, 20 times a day, and never once gets the feeling that a meal has started and ended. Losing weight comes down to calories in against calories burned. But the real trick is feeding her something that fills her up on fewer of them. Water does that. Kibble does the reverse. So here's the swap. And I'll be straight with you, because the title of this video promised a formula, and I don't want you thinking it's some secret bottle. It isn't. The formula is plain, high-protein canned food, the wet kind, fed in measured meals instead of a bowl that never empties. That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me talk about the money, because people don't believe me at first. A can of plain classic pate, the simple meat and water kind, runs about $1. Feed most cats for a day on that, and you're looking at $4 or less. Cheaper than the prescription bag, and most cats go after it like you've handed them a treat. Here's why it works, and it's simpler than the marketing wants you to think. It's the water. Canned food is roughly 3/4 moisture, so the same amount of food that fills her bowl and fills her stomach carries a fraction of the calories that dry kibble does. She feels full, she takes in less energy, and she gets water into her body at the same time, which most cats badly need because they don't drink much on their own. Then there's the protein. You want it high. When a cat loses weight, high protein helps her hold onto her muscle and drop the fat instead. She comes down the right way, leaner, not just smaller and weaker. Now I owe you some honesty here, because there's a lot of noise about this online. You'll hear people say carbs are poison for cats, that starch is the enemy, that it's all the grain in the kibble. That's not quite what the science says. When researchers actually control the calories, it's fat, not carbohydrate alone, that tends to pack the weight on. And the studies point at something else too, that the form of the food, dry versus wet, and how it's fed, matters as much as the recipe printed on the bag. So the reason wet food helps your cat isn't some magic low-carb trick. It's plainer than that. Fewer calories in the same amount of food, real portion control, and water. Honest is more useful than impressive. When you go to buy it, read the can. You want water or broth and a named meat, chicken, turkey, fish, right at the top of the ingredients. You want the words classic, pate, or loaf. And you want a line that says it's complete and balanced for adult cats. Skip the fancy gourmet gravies stacked with extras and calories. Plain is what you're after. Now the 3 rules, because the food alone won't do it if you feed it wrong. First rule, measure it, don't pour. The bottomless bowl is the whole problem. And if you just set out wet food and keep refilling, you've changed nothing. Most overweight indoor cats need somewhere around 180 to 220 calories a day to come down slowly. A plain can often runs about 150 to 170. Work out her real number with your vet, then hold to it. Second rule, set meals, 2 or 3 a day at the same times, and when the meal's done, the bowl comes up. Cats do just fine eating this way. This is what brings back the signal the endless bowl erased, the simple sense that food comes and then it's gone, and you wait. Third rule, and this one matters most, go slow. A cat must never crash diet. Drop the weight too fast and you can trigger something called fatty liver, and it's dangerous. It can kill her. Aim for something gentle, roughly 0.5% to 2% of her body weight a week. That's it. Slow and steady is the safe way and the only way. One more practical thing. Don't flip her over to wet food overnight, especially if she's stubborn. Ease into it across a week or so, mixing a little of the wet in with what she knows, letting her taste and her stomach catch up. Now, how do you know it's working? You don't need a lab. You've got 2 checks right on her own body. First, the rib check. Lay a flat hand along her side and press lightly. You should feel her ribs the way you feel the knuckles on the back of your hand there, under a thin cover. Not sharp and sticking out, but not buried where you have to dig either. Second, the overhead look. Stand over her while she's standing and look straight down. You're looking for that little tuck behind the ribs, the soft hourglass. If her sides go straight out or bulge, you keep going. Weigh her once a month too. Easiest way is to step on the scale holding her, then weigh yourself alone and take the difference. The number and those 2 body checks together will tell you the truth. And notice something, none of this needed the $60 bag. The whole thing turned on water, on portion, and on protein. The exact 3 things that full bowl of kibble was working against every single day. So there it is. One swap, plain canned food instead of the endless bowl of kibble. 3 rules to feed it by. Measure it, set the meals, and go slow. And 2 checks on her own body. The ribs under your flat hand and a little tuck when you look down from above. None of it was a fancier bag. It was giving your hunter the kind of food she was built for. Mostly water, real protein, served in meals with a beginning and an end. If you want more of the straight version of pet care, the kind that saves you money instead of selling you the next thing on the shelf, subscribe and stay with me. Next time I'll show you how to read a cat food label in 30 seconds and catch the 3 words that tell you it's mostly filler.